very good students. You just need a little bit of guidance, and then that should be fine. All right. So unfortunately, that is. Okay. So let's get going. Try and mute this ding dong thing, and then at least put some sanity on who can unmute and not, and that kind of thing. At least, so when we get to the question time, then I'll allow you to unmute and ask all the questions you want to ask. All right. So please, let's try and make the class very participatory. Ask questions. If you don't understand anything, take your time. Just take your time. Ask questions. Read the notes. Yeah. I hope the notes are online. Okay. They should be on Sakai by now. So make sure you read them before. Okay. All right. So we are going to deal with something very interesting with macroeconomics, and that's called fiscal policy. Okay, fiscal policy. So we'll pick a very simple Keynesian model and look at it. So fiscal policy is about the government. How does the government spend its money, and how do they generate money? All right. Okay, that's basically what we'll be talking about. So feel free to interrupt me anytime you want, and let's have a very good discussion. Don't let me be the only person speaking. You can also raise your hand, ask a question, type. I'll periodically, I'll try and be reading the messages, okay, to see if you have any new questions and that kind of thing. All right. Okay, so let's move on. So we'll look at what fiscal policy is in terms of the meaning of fiscal policy. When we say fiscal policy is used as a stabilization tool, what does that mean? All right, we'll look at all those things, and we'll look at some other issues related to the fiscal policy. All right. Okay, so in terms of the meaning of fiscal policy, as I said from the beginning, we are referring to changes in the level of government spending. How does government spend its money? Okay, or the monies they generate. You know, the only way government can generate money, one of the ways government can generate money is through what? Taxes. All right, it's through taxes. So it raises money by issuing taxes, or it raises money through taxes and spends the money as what? Government expenditure. All right, so that's all fiscal policy is about. All right, fiscal policy is about what the government does, how does it generate its money, and how does it spend its money. So fiscal policy refers to changes in the level of government spending and or taxes meant to influence the level of economic activity. All right, taxes meant to influence the level of economic activity. So basically, that is what we see when the Minister of Finance is reading the budget statement. All he does is that he talks about how government is going to spend the money for the incoming fiscal year. So he presents on what has happened previously and then forecasts how government is going to do what? Spend its money in the incoming fiscal year, and also how they are going to generate taxes. Okay, so we tend to hear that the recent finance minister, anytime he raises the budget, people are looking at this nuisance tax and the ones that have been cancelled and the ones that have been. That's all fiscal policy is about. How does the government generate its money, and how do they do what? Spend their money. All right. So fiscal policy can be used in two ways, basically. The first one is either to, don't forget, look at the national income identity thing that we did. You see, we have C plus I, aggregate demand equals C plus I plus G. That G there is what is referred to as what? Government spending. So we can use the government spending to either increase Y or what? Reduce Y. If we bring in the disposable income thing, but then the tax also comes in. So we can use a tax to either increase Y or reduce Y. So that's all this particular point is talking about. All right, that fiscal policy can be expansionary. So when it is expansionary, we want to increase Y. Okay, so we increase aggregate demand, and then in equilibrium, we know the two must equate for there to be an equilibrium. So we increase to expansionary means increasing. Contractionary means you are doing what? You are decreasing. All right, you are decreasing. Okay, so expansionary policy, also referred as what? Fiscal loosening, refers to the increase in government spending and reduction in taxes. So expansionary, there are two things you can do. Either you increase government spending, all right? Government spending, a lot of money being spent on road, on military, and you increase government spending. Or alternatively, if you want consumers to more directly benefit from and fiscal policy, what you do is you reduce taxes. As you reduce taxes, disposable incomes increase, all right, Y increases, and that's it. So we can use the national income identity to explain this. When there's fiscal loosening, we want to increase G and do what? Reduce tax. When there's fiscal loosening or expansionary fiscal policy, we are increasing government spending and reducing taxes. All right, and I've just demonstrated to you how a reduction in tax can lead to an increase in disposable income, increase in consumption, increase in aggregate demand, and increase in income. All right. Okay. So I've just demonstrated that to you. Now, when we talk of fiscal, so fiscal policy may be expansionary or contractionary. We've seen that already. Expansionary fiscal policy or fiscal loosening refers to an increase in government spending and then a reduction in what? In taxes. Now, contractionary fiscal policy is also known as what? Fiscal tightening. Okay, fiscal tightening, and refers to an increase in taxes and a reduction in what? Government spending. All right, an increase in what? Taxes. An increase in taxes and then a reduction in government spending. And it's quite closely related to what is referred to as what? Fiscal austerity. Okay, you want to put some discipline. Okay, some discipline into the economy. So you reduce government spending. Okay. So when the economy is getting overheated, all right, what you do is you reduce government spending and increase taxes just to tame the overheating, all right, so that it becomes a little cold, all right. So there are two terms you should be very comfortable explaining. One is the fiscal loosening, and the other one is what? The fiscal tightening. Fiscal loosening is the same as expansionary fiscal policy, and then fiscal tightening is also the same as what? Contractionary fiscal policy. Is it clear? You can type and let me know whether it's clear. You can type your responses. Good. All right. Okay, good. All right. So now let's go into the numbers a little bit. All right. Okay, let's go into the numbers a little bit. All right, good. So recall from last week that there is this basic relationship in the economy that consumption. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. So for those of you just joining the class, you are welcome. We started not too long ago, so don't worry about it. Okay, we only try to explain what fiscal policy is. And then we said fiscal policy was about an increase in government spending. It can be as a result of changes in government spending or changes in taxes. Okay, and then we talked about fiscal expansionary fiscal policy and then contractionary fiscal policy. So now we are now coming to the numbers. Can we play around with some of the numbers a little bit? That's basically what we are up to now. All right. So recall from last week the basic relationship that exists in the economy. So we are saying that consumption, C, depends on what? Disposable income. Okay, depends on disposable income. This is autonomous consumption. The value of consumption when disposable income is 0. Okay, and then this is the manual propensity to consume. We are assuming there is an investment function, but we are assuming it to be what? Exogenous, so that we use I naught to represent it, G naught to. So this is a very simple economy. Okay, all right. So in equilibrium, we require that aggregate demand is equal to income, and we know how to compute aggregate demand. So aggregate demand is, don't forget, this D here is disposable income. So YD is y minus t. All right. YD is y minus t. Okay. YD is y minus t. So that's what has been substituted here. So don't forget, AD is C plus I plus G. C plus I plus G. But this C here, we'll rewrite it as what? A plus B into bracket y minus t. So that is what they have here. A into bracket. Okay, so up to here. A into bracket A plus B into bracket y minus t. Then this is I, and then this is G. All right, so we can expand this. When we expand it, we get A plus BY minus BT. But we send the BY to the left-hand side. Okay, we send the BY to the left-hand side. So the right-hand side will be left with this A minus BT0 plus A naught plus I naught plus G naught. All right. Now, for this left-hand side, we can write y and take it out of the brackets so that it will be left with what? Y into bracket 1 minus b. So at equilibrium, okay, equilibrium, we are dividing the whole of this by what? 1 minus b, so that we'll get the equilibrium value for what? For income. So it's not difficult. Guys, try it out, and let me see if you are able to do it. Are you able to work on it? Try it and let's see. I've allowed you to be able to unmute yourself and speak. So if you're able to do it, let me know. If you're not able to do it too, and let me know, then I'll bring in this whiteboard or, yeah. Solve it. Try solving it and see whether you get YE to be equal to A minus. No. Don't chew formula. Here, don't chew formula. I'll show you an example very soon. But I want you to be able to solve this for me. So we have Y to be equal to what? AD. But AD itself is what? Is C. It is this A plus BY plus I plus G. But this YD is what? Disposable income. And it is calculated as what? Income less tax. So that is what you have here. YD, the YD is Y minus T. Okay, the YD is Y minus T. So the rest is just mathematics. All right, factor out the Y. That's all you want to do. Who has been able to solve it?
Yeah, I'm done.
We are done. You got it correct.
Yes, sir.
Good. Who else?
Me too.
Okay, good.
So please, me too. I've been able to solve it.
Beautiful. All right. So if
Sir, can you please go over it again? Sir, please go over it again.
Oh, so it is C plus I plus G. The only difficult part is this YD. And I'm telling you that the YD is what? Y minus T.
Okay, right. Sir.
So now if it comes and it is not A plus BYD, but it is something like, if it comes and it is not C equals A plus BYD, but it is something like 5 plus 0.2 YD. I hope you'll be able to solve it.
Okay, sir, so it will be 0. This one into bracket Y minus T.
Exactly.
All right.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, please, we are lost. Can you please go over it again, please? Starting from the equilibrium condition requires that income is equal to aggregate demand.
But do you know that aggregate demand is C plus I plus G?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is C. C is A, B, Y, D. That is what you see here. And then this is I and this is G. Okay. Now, YD is disposable income after tax. So we can rewrite the YD as what? Y minus T. YD is disposable income. That is income after tax. So just income minus tax. That is where you see this Y minus T. Okay. And then the rest is easy. Just expand, take the Y's to one side and divide the whole thing by 1 minus B. Okay? Is it clear now? Beautiful.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
All right. Okay. Okay. There is an example in this same slide. So when we get there, we'll deal with it. Now let's look at this thing called the autonomous expenditure multiplier. All right. The autonomous expenditure multiplier. So don't forget autonomous. Okay. Don't forget the autonomous. Okay. So let me mute everybody now and then stop you from unmuting yourself. All right. When we get to a point that I want you to come in, I will just allow you to unmute yourself and come in. All right. Now let's look at them. Don't forget the autonomous elements are this G naught, the I naught, autonomous, tax, and A. So if we want to, this, what we've gotten to is pure mathematics. If we want to see how much YU will change, if G naught, if we want to know how much YU will change, if G naught changes by a certain element, all we need to know is, so let me stop. No, I don't want to stop sharing. Can I share? Can I bring in a whiteboard? Let's see. All right. Oh no, then the equation 2 is gone. Okay, hold on. All right. So this is what I'm trying to discuss. Look, but you know how to isolate. So assuming all other variables there are 0. So assuming I naught is 0, T naught is 0, A naught, A is also 0. Then to be left with what? YE to be equal to G0 over 1 minus B. So if I know how much G0 is, if I know how much G0 is changing, then I need to know 1 over 1 minus B. Or I need to know 1 over 1 minus B to be able to tell the effect of a change in G on what? On E. It's just like a slope coefficient. What is the slope? If you do differentiation, differentiate this YG with respect to G0, what will you get? You get 1 over 1 minus B. Okay? If you differentiate this YG with respect to I naught, what do you get? 1 over 1. That is the multiplier. So that is what you see here. It is called the autonomous expenditure multiplier. Okay? It is called the autonomous expenditure multiplier. Okay? And it is a multiple by which a change in any component of the autonomous expenditures increases equilibrium output. All right, so just do a simple differentiation of this YE with respect to G naught. What you get is equal to what? 1 over 1 minus B. A differentiation of this equation with respect to I naught, what you get is 1. The only different one is this one. If you differentiate this YG with respect to T naught, what you get is what? Minus B over 1 minus B. Try and work it out and let's see. Differentiate this equation here with respect to what? T naught. What you get is what? Minus B over 1 minus B. Okay? All right. Are you following? Are you guys following? All right. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so that is the autonomous expenditure multiplier. That is how we got the autonomous expenditure multiplier. And here for now, yes, you will be, Margaret, you'll be asked to calculate the multiplier in exams. Yes, you will be. You will be. So that's why I'm taking my time to go through it. Okay? You will be. There's no way you can run away from there. Okay, so let me just go over it. I say the autonomous items you are referring to now is this. Is what? Is A, I0, A, I0, and G0. We are calling them the autonomous items, autonomous spending. And I'm saying that if you look at this, if you differentiate this with respect to A, what you get is 1 over 1 minus B. If the differentiation is the word, Albert, if the differentiation is the word that is carrying you, what is the slope of this equation when B T0 is equal to 0, I naught is equal to 0, and G naught is equal to 0? Okay, remove this differentiation. Caris is also saying the differentiation is a problem. What will be the value of A? What will be the slope associated with this A? It is 1 over 1 minus B. Okay, all right, Jocelyn, I'll do well and get you the notes, all right? So what is the slope associated with G naught? It is 1 over 1 minus B, all right? It is one, and that is what is referred to as what? The autonomous expenditure multiplier, okay? Autonomous expenditure multiplier. So I can see Margaret saying that the slides may be up, so you guys should go get it, all right? But all the same, I'll send it to the course rep to share it amongst you, all right? So now let's move on, all right? Okay, so from the previous examples, what will be the effect? So based on the previous equation, all right, what will be the effect of an increase in taxes on equilibrium income? So assuming there's an increase in tax and all other autonomous elements are left the same. Okay, so assuming A is 0, there's no change in A. I naught is 0, G naught is also 0. The only way you can tell the effect of a change in tax on YG is from this thing you call here, and it is called what? The autonomous tax multiplier. All right, it is called the autonomous tax multiplier. So when we differentiate Y with respect to T naught, what we get is what? Minus B over 1 minus B, and that is called the autonomous tax multiplier. It shows the effect of a change in autonomous taxes on what? Equilibrium income. All right. So the negative shows that an increase in tax will do what? Will reduce equilibrium income. All right. It will reduce equilibrium income. And you can even see the negative where it is even emerging from. All right. You can see, I'm trying to go back. Oh, where have I gone to? Okay. All right. So this is where the negative is coming from. All right. Here. It is coming all the way from here. Okay. It is coming all the way from there. Okay. All right. So this is the autonomous tax multiplier. And the negative shows that as if you increase taxes, it will reduce national income. Okay. Do you have any questions? Let me allow you to unmute yourselves and then ask any question. We'll take an example. I know there's an example on the next slide. So we'll take an example. Or maybe let's get to where we are taking the example, then you guys ask all the questions. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So there's this thing called a balanced budget multiplier. So don't forget, what we are doing is fiscal policy. Fiscal policy. What will be the effect of an increase in government spending on what? On equilibrium national income. And what also be the effect? So fiscal policy is about the G and the T. Always the G and the T. So now what will be the multiplier? What would the multiplier be if government increases spending and at the same time increases autonomous tax by an equal amount? All right. And it is, that thing is just called the balanced budget multiplier. So more or less, you are adding the multiplier associated with a change in G naught. The multiplier associated with a change in G naught. And that one is called what? 1 over 1 minus B. You are adding that to the multiplier. So it's 1 over 1 minus B plus the autonomous tax multiplier. It's minus B over 1 minus B. Okay, so we have 1 over 1 minus B plus minus B over 1 minus B. Because the denominator is the same, you can just work it out from the numerator so that it becomes what? 1 minus B divided by what? 1 minus B. Who can see that much easily? It's not difficult to see that, right? So just the autonomous tax multiplier and the autonomous tax multiplier, add it to the autonomous government multiplier. Okay, add the two. Okay, add the two and you realize that when you add it, it will equal to 1. So that is what is called the balanced budget multiplier. The balanced budget multiplier shows the effect the effect on income of an increase in government spending and total taxes by what? Equal amounts. So the balanced budget multiplier is going to be 1 if the change in G and the change in T are equal. This means that equilibrium income will increase by the same amount of the increase in government taxes and spending. All right. Let me see whether the example is up here next. All right. Okay, so there's an example here. So let's deal with this one before we move there. All right. So to see this, so this is how you calculate the effect And this one will come in the exam. So please take your time and understand it. Okay. So to tell the effect of a change in gene, okay, the effect of a change in gene on change in Y, all you need to do is to calculate the multiplier and multiply it by the change in gene, and it will give you what? The change in Y. Okay. The same thing if you want to tell the change in T on a change in Y, calculate its multiplier, which is minus B over 1 minus B, multiplied by the change in T, and to give you the effect of the change in T on change in Y. All right. So they are doing this one for the balanced budget multiplier. Okay, the balanced budget multiplier. What they've done is to calculate the effect of a change in G on national income, and the effect of the change in G in national income is equal to what? Change in G multiplied by its respective multiplier, 1 over 1 minus B. That is the respective multiplier with respect to G. Now, for the case of T, we are multiplying the change in T with respect to its multiplier, which is what? Minus B over 1 minus B. But because of the negative here, we bring it up here. All right. So since we are going to assume that, don't forget, when we're doing the balanced budget multiplier, we said that the change in T should be equal to what? The change in T. They should change by an equal amount. Okay, they should change by an equal amount. So we'll make that assumption that change in G is the same as what? Change in T. So we are going to change this thing to what? Change in G. And that is what we see here. So we are adding this, the change in government. Okay, so the change in government plus, but because of this negative, then it becomes minus. And then here it is change in T, but because of the assumption that change in G and change in T are the same, we put here change in G. All right, then we can do this change in G. So this can cancel this and to be left with the change in G. So what this is saying is what is written here, that the balance, if the balanced budget multiplier is also equal to 1, this means that equilibrium income will increase by the same amount of the increase in government spending and taxes, by the same amount. All right. Okay. So let's take this example. And here I'll take my time. All right. I'll take my time. And are you guys allowed to unmute? Yes. I think you're allowed to unmute. You can unmute yourself. So let's take this example and try and solve this one. They say consider an economy. Yes. Consider an economy where the consumption function is equal to what? 100 plus 0.8 YD. Okay. So guys, what is the autonomous consumption value? What is the value of the autonomous consumption here? What is the value of the autonomous consumption? You can type it.
100.
Right.
100.
Okay.
100.
Okay. And then what is the value of the marginal propensity to consume?
0.8.
Good.
0.8.
0.8. Good. All those answering, put 2 marks for you. So I'm looking at those that have not answered. I'll take the 2 from you. So minus
0.8.
0.8. Good.
0.8.
Okay.
0.8.
I've heard.
Yes, sir. Lower example 0.8.
Okay, good. All right. So now we have. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. So if you can now. Yes. So all of you mute now and let's continue. All right. So now we have our consumption function to be what? Somebody says the marks are finished. So we have our consumption function to be equal to 100 plus 0.8 YD. Then investment is autonomous exogenous, so it's 200. Government spending 80. Tax is also what? 70. All right. So in this example, the marginal propensity to consume is 0.8. And what that means is this. If you have 80% of your additional income, so if you have, so 80% of your additional income is going to what? Consumption. It's easy to see, right? So if YD increases by 1, C will increase by what? 0.8%. Okay, so 80% of any additional income, that's what the 0.8 means. 80% of any additional income is going to consumption. So assuming your income is either consumed or saved, then 20% is going to what? Is going to savings. All right. Okay. Yes.
I didn't get what the C was, 100.
The 100 is autonomous consumption. It means You won't get the number. You won't get the 2 marks. So.
So I got it. I got the 0.8.
But you're just telling me you don't know what the C is. The 100 is.
Anyway, I got it.
Don't worry. Okay, so what is the marginal propensity to consume in the equation?
It's 0.8.
Okay, so 2 marks for you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, so that's what the 0.8 actually means. Okay, that's what the 0.8 actually means. And from this model, we can calculate what the autonomous spending multiplier would be. All right, we already know that in a very simple economy, all right, the autonomous multiplier is what 1 over 1 minus B. And we know what B is. B is the marginal propensity to consume. So if we substitute the B into the equation, into this equation, what we get is what? 5. So 5 is what? The multiplier. Okay, 5 is the multiplier. Okay, so it means that if any component of the autonomous spending increases by 5 units, output will also do what? Increase by what? 5 units. Okay, output will also increase by 5 units. And look at how the autonomous tax multiplier is. The autonomous tax multiplier is minus B over 1 minus B. And the autonomous tax multiplier, if you solve it out, you should get minus 4. Guys, solve it, and let's see. Again, 2 marks for anybody who is able to solve it. Solve first, make sure you get the 5 for the autonomous spending multiplier and minus 4 for the autonomous tax multiplier. Those that have not been able to solve it,
all correct.
You have all correct. Okay, 2 marks for you.
That's all correct. Minus 4.
Sir, I've gotten it. I've gotten a 5 and minus.
Stop it.
It's okay.
Add all correct.
Minus 4.
I'll solve it.
Okay, all right, good.
Say I had all correct.
Good. All right. So you see how it is fun. I mean, some of these things are just fine. All right. So everybody had it correct. So 2 marks for everybody. Okay, good. So now let's try and solve the equilibrium. Now I won't show the answer. I want you to solve it yourself. All right. So this is the question. Solve for the equilibrium national income. All right. Solve for the equilibrium. Don't forget, you are doing Y equals AD, where AD is what? C plus I plus G. Don't forget that YD is equal to what? Y minus T. So solve for the equilibrium national income elements. Again, 2 marks for anybody who is able to solve it. Today, they will exhaust all the 100 marks here. So 2 marks for anybody who is able to solve for the equilibrium national income. Then those that are not able to solve, we will show them how we got our answer. Yes, so Eric Ofosu Mensah says 1620. Another person to say 1620. 1620 by Foster. Are you all getting a 1620? All right, good. All right, so that is it. So it becomes C plus I plus G. But here, the YD here, what you do is you do Y minus T. So the T here is the 70. All right, is the 70. The 70 from here. T here from the question is what? Is 70. T is what? 70. So you can substitute it into the equation and solve for Y. Okay, so now your equilibrium national income. So good. All those that have been able to solve it, good. Whose hand is raised up? Just unmute yourself and ask the question. Clifford. Yes, Clifford, I'm waiting.
Also has 1620.
My network, good.
Please, I have 1620.
Good. So 2 marks for all of you, okay?
Hello, sir, please, a question.
Okay, what question is it? Yes, who wants to ask the question?
Yes. Who wants to ask the
Please, the autonomous tax multiplier.
Mm-hmm.
So please, was it negative 4 or 4?
It's supposed to be negative.
Okay, I got negative 4. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
I thought I had 4, so I thought I was wrong.
No, it's supposed to be negative. Always know that the autonomous tax multiplier is supposed to be negative.
Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Right. Okay.
Sir.
Yes.
So the disposable income, is it income minus tax?
It's income minus tax.
Okay.
Good. Rebecca, just unmute yourself and speak.
So we wanted to find out why, like, we had Y superscript D, and I thought that meant disposable income.
Which one?
The Y with the superscript D, like YD.
And that is called disposable income.
So why did we go ahead to take away tax again?
No. So to get disposable income, you have to subtract tax from income. Why standing on its own is just income? You can only get the disposable income from Y if you deduct taxes. Do you understand?
Yes.
Rebecca? Okay, good. Justice. So last question from Justice, then we'll go on.
Sir.
Yes.
Please, from what you've done in the slide, it means we are supposed to stick to the equation. I mean, this form of equation, because you see, you made us come up to the YE is equal to A minus B T, like the long thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to, but when it comes to like solving a question, we have to stick to this. The Y is equal to C plus B Y minus T plus I.
Yes. For now, stick to it. We'll open the economy a little bit, but when we get there, I'll show you what to do.
All right. So there's a point we'll have to use the long one.
Exactly. There's a point that we will end up using a very longer one.
We're ready. Thank you.
When we get there, I'll show you. Oh, it's not ready. It's not difficult. Don't worry. Justice, is there a question?
Sir,
yes.
Sir, please, you were saying for the utmost tax multiplier, it has to be negative always.
Yes.
How about if there's a reduction in the rate of tax?
So it will. Don't forget, if there's a reduction in the rate of tax, what is changing is the change in T. Okay, what is reducing is the change in T. The multiplier there, nothing else. What is changing is this one, is the change in T. This change in T can drop, but this multiplier thing is unaffected. All right, the question you are asking, you want to say, what if the change in T drops? Okay, this minus B over 1 minus B is unaffected by the question you're asking. Okay, it is the change in T that will drop. All right.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, good. All right. So now let's move on. All right. Okay. So that's about it for the calculation. I mean, for now. All right. So let me ask you a question, and anybody who is able to get it right, I'll give the person 10 marks straight. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So now, if so given the value for Y, so we know what the multipliers are. We are going to play around with this multiplier. If government expenditure is increased by 50, what will be the change in income? If government expenditure is increased by 50, use the multiplier to tell me the extent to which income will change. 10 marks. Anybody who gets it right? Yes, Niyama.
The question again.
So the question is that if there's a change in government expenditure by 50, and okay, I won't add the other one. If there's a change in government expenditure by 50, to what extent will income change?
So it's 250.
Hey,
250.
250, say.
250.
Say 250.
Good.
250, say.
Beautiful.
So please, I was the first person to answer.
250.
The second person.
I'll give you 10 marks.
I'm the first person.
Good.
Please, I like.
So
it's 250.
Okay. Now that everybody has mentioned, I'll give everybody. So I hope you understand what we are doing, right?
Give everybody.
And we'll give everybody 10 marks. Okay. Now, assuming taxes increase by 50, what will be the change in income? Assuming taxes increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what will be the change in income? 50 increase by 50, what
So 200.
200.
200, sir.
Minus 200.
So would it be an increase?
Negative 200.
No. Take your time. Will income increase by 200 or it will reduce by 200?
It will
Increase by 200.
Will it increase by 200 or reduce by 200?
Reduce by 200.
It will reduce by 200 because of the behavior.
Then it will reduce by
200.
Reduce by 200. Increase by 200.
So it will reduce by negative 200.
Good. All right. Okay. Good. I am happy you guys are giving me some quite good answers there. All right. So those are the things you'll be playing around with in your exam.
Please, me, I'm lost.
Oh, Martha, where are you lost?
I don't know how come they got the 250 and the 200 they are talking about.
No. So the 250, no. If government spending, we are using this formula. Look at this formula. This is the formula we are using. All of them are used. They know what the multiplier is. The multiplier was 5. So if government expenditure increases by 50, all you have to do is multiply the 5 by 50 and you get the 250. Do you understand?
I didn't know we were using the previous question.
Oh, no. Okay. All right, I get you. All right. So I hope you understand.
Yes, please.
Good.
Minus 10.
All right. Now let's look at how we can use fiscal policy as a stabilization tool. All right. So I'll mute all of you here for now, and then when the need be, I'll open it up for discussion. All right. Then I'll open it up for discussion just to minimize on there. Oh, Sewa, who is Sewa? Sewa says she's lost. So Sewa, raise your hand and let me allow you to unmute yourself. And then you ask any question. Why are you lost? We have to rescue Sewa, then we'll move on. Sewa. Or maybe Sewa is not able to unmute yet. All right. Okay. So Sewa, you just raise your hand. I'll allow you to unmute and then you. Okay. All right. So now let's look at how we can use fiscal policy as a stabilization tool. It's not a difficult thing. All right. So there is this thing called an actual. There's this difference between actual GDP and then what is called potential GDP. All right. We need to know the difference between actual GDP and potential GDP. Oh, Sewa. Oh, Sewa, you don't have to be shy because your video is not on. Why are you shy? Okay. All right. So Sewa, just raise your hand. I'll allow you to ask your question. All right. Okay. So now we need to know the distinction between actual and potential. So actual refers to what the economy does produce. Okay, what the economy does produce. And a potential refers to what the economy could produce if all resources are used, if all the resources in the economy are fully utilized. Okay. So the potential is if we utilize all the resources in the economy. All right. Okay. All right. If we utilize all the resources in the economy, what we can produce is the potential. So you clearly see that there will be a difference because it's not possible that an economy can make use of all possible resources. It's just not possible. All right. So definitely there will be a difference between actual GDP. Okay. There will be a difference between actual GDP and potential GDP. There will be a difference between actual GDP and potential GDP. Okay. So I can see some people said they were logged out. Margaret, is it Margaret? All right. Okay. Oh. So where were you? Okay, I will allow you to unmute. Just 2 minutes, okay? And then I'll move on. All right. So unmute Margaret and who? Some other. Hey. So those writing me to it doesn't mean you all done.
So when you
I was logged out. So.
Okay. So what is it? Where were you lost? Let me know so that I'll see where I can rescue you.
When you said.
When I said what?
So when you started with, let's move on to the actual what, then I just logged out. I don't know how come.
Oh no, then we are just about starting.
Yes.
Wait, did you get
no, I
the
was logged
calculation?
out before then. No.
I got up to where we got the 200. The 200.
Oh, that's too far back.
So even the 200, I don't even know how you got it. I was logged out all this time. I don't know if it's my network or something. I've tried on another phone.
Okay, do you know what we will do? Don't know what we will do. Let me finish what I have to do. Then those who want to leave can leave. Then those of you who don't understand the calculation, I'll come back to it and I'll take you through. Is that okay?
Yes,
Okay,
sir. Thank you very much.
All right. So now let's continue. When we finish, those who want to leave can leave. And then those who didn't understand how the calculation was done, we'll come back to it and then we'll get it right. Please, this time around, you have to do well in the exams. I want everybody to do well. Okay. So I'll just go back to it and then we'll deal with that one. All right. So I was explaining the distinction between the actual and the potential. Potential, when you put everything into use, then what you get is the potential. But really, it will be difficult to say you are putting everything into use. All right. It will be difficult to say you are putting everything into use. It's going to be just very difficult. All right. So, so definitely we'll end up with a gap. All right. A gap between the actual GDP. Yes. The actual GDP and the potential GDP. There will be a gap. So Juliet, you have a TA now. So she will contact you and start some tutorials with you. All right. Okay. So there will definitely be a difference between the actual and the potential. We'll call the actual Y and then the potential YP, potential GDP YP. All right. So there's always going to be a certain gap. But if it happens that the gap is zero, then it means that the potential GDP is equal to what? Actual GDP, and we have full employment. Potential will be equal to the actual, and we have full employment. But there are some instances where the potential may be greater than the actual, or the potential may be less than the actual. So for instance, if output gap is positive, don't forget the output gap is the potential minus the actual. So if the output gap is positive, it means that the potential is greater than what? The actual, and we have what? A recessionary gap. Recessionary gap. Okay, when the potential is greater than the actual, we have what? A recessionary gap. And when the potential is less than the actual, the output gap is what? Is negative. And we have what? An inflation gap. Okay, an inflation gap. All right. So for your multiple choice questions, things like this will come out. If potential is greater than actual, is the output gap positive? If it is positive, is it a recessionary or inflationary gap? All right. You need to be able to tell all those things. All right. You should be able to tell the difference. Okay. All right. All right. So here is an example. So typically we are going to denote the so we have our 45-degree line where we are again saying that aggregate demand or aggregate expenditure is equal to income. And then we have our aggregate expenditure line. Okay. We have our aggregate expenditure line. So here there's a gap between what? Between the, so this is more or less the actual GDP. And then this is what? The potential GDP. We are saying that if the potential GDP is greater than the actual GDP, all right? Okay, so let's assume we are here. Okay, the potential is somewhere here, and then this is the actual, all right? So there's a recessionary gap. Okay, there is a recessionary gap. So it means that we are more or less, if you remember the business cycle thing, we are in one of the troughs. So we need to, no, Annie. So that would have been the normal, the ideal thing, all right? The ideal thing would have been that the potential, or the more practical thing is that the potential, it will be very difficult for an economy to put all resources to use. So the reality is that potential will normally be greater than the actual. But if potential is greater than the actual, we have a recessionary gap. But it is possible that the potential can be lower than the actual. All right, it can be possible. All right, it's very, very, very possible. Okay, very, very, very possible. Okay, all right, very, very possible. Okay, very, 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 very possible. All right, okay. All right, so here we have a situation where the potential is greater than what the actual, and there's a recessionary gap. And this is how you tell the recessionary gap. You use the 45-degree line, the difference between the 45-degree line and then the actual expenditure line, all right, or aggregate demand line will give you what the recessionary gap. Also, here, potential is lower than the actual. So to get to the gap, it is again the 45-degree line. All right, so the potential being lower than the actual could be when there's some significant technological change. So, and I mean, some of these things were realized during the Industrial Revolution time when electricity and then the power wheel and all those things were all of a sudden created. All right, were all of a sudden created. So some of these things, it's possible. Theoretically, it is possible. All right, theoretically, it is very, very possible. All right, it is very, very possible. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, it's very, very possible. Okay, so whenever the potential is lower than the actual, you have an inflationary gap. Okay, and whenever the potential is greater than the actual, we have what? A recessionary gap. In real terms, for some purposes, all right, for examination purposes, it should be possible for you to do what? To calculate what that gap is. All right, it will be possible for you to calculate what that gap is. All right, I don't have an example here, but definitely.
I don't like that.
530.
530.
Yes, from the AE line. Okay, from the AE line. All right. So now let's move on. Okay. A major goal of fiscal policy is to stabilize the actual output. Okay, can we get the actual output to be closer as much as possible to the potential output? Don't forget that is all fiscal policy is about. All right, that's all fiscal policy is about. Fiscal policy is all about cleaning up any possible recessionary gap or inflationary gap. All right. That's all fiscal policy is about. So if the actual is greater than the potential, then we say the economy is overheating and there is an inflationary gap. So what must the government do? Implement a contractionary fiscal policy to reduce the output. Okay. So let me try and yes, where is the sound coming from? All right. Okay, so I've managed to mute them now. All right. So if there is an inflationary gap, government can use contractionary. Don't forget, contractionary fiscal policy is a reduction in government spending and an increase in tax. All right. It's a decrease in government. All right. So here we are here. This is what the potential is. This is the potential. Okay. So here, this is the potential, and this is what the actual. We want the economy to come back here. So the only thing, the ideal thing for the government to do is to reduce aggregate expenditure. If it reduces aggregate expenditure, this thing will drop. The AE line will drop. Okay, and then the actual will be equal to what? The potential. All right. So when the economy is getting overheated, inflation is going up and all those things, we implement a contractionary fiscal policy to reduce output. In the same way, when there is a recession, all right, so around these times, okay, so around these times, we see it's not so, you've heard what the government has been doing around this time. They've been conducting what? An expansionary fiscal policy, all right? Let's give people electricity, free electricity, let's give people free water, all of those things, so that it will do what? It will move us back. It's because actual output was less than what? The potential. So we're sort of in a recessionary gap. So what can the government do? Let's ease some of the burden, all right? Let's push in some more money. Let's increase government spending. Let's reduce taxes, okay? Okay, let's reduce taxes. So Jude, I've seen your questions, I'll provide you with a response very soon. So let's increase G, let's reduce T, so that we'll go back to what? The potential. Okay, so the AE line, Jude, is drawn 45 degrees. That's the 45-degree line. Okay, so on that line, aggregate expenditure is equal to income, all right? Okay, all right. Okay, so that's how fiscal policy can be used as a stabilization tool. So when we say stabilization, it's all about if the actual is less than the potential, what can we do to bring the actual to the potential? Okay, that's all stabilization is all about. So it depends on whether you have an inflationary gap, meaning the economy is getting overheated. So what we do is we conduct a contractionary fiscal policy. All right, we conduct a contractionary fiscal policy. And when there's a recessionary gap, like around these times when GDP is far below the expectation, what we do is we conduct an expansionary monetary policy to bring it back to where it was. All right, to bring it back to where it was. All right. Okay. So consider our previous example. We saw that the equilibrium income or actual output was 1620. Okay, it was 1620. Suppose the potential is 2000. Okay, clearly the actual is lower than the potential. So there's what? A recessionary gap. All right, and most economists in the world, this is what they are experiencing around this time. There's a recessionary gap. Okay, so now the next thing is government must do something. The government must conduct an expansionary fiscal policy to reduce or remove this gap. All right, they must conduct an so the government can use an expansionary fiscal policy to remove this gap. Don't forget, we can calculate what the gap is. The gap is what? The 2000 minus the national equilibrium national income that we calculated, which is 1620. So the gap that we need to fill is what? Is 1620. All right. The gap that we need to fill is what? Is 16. The gap that we need to fill is what? Is 380. Then equilibrium national income was 1620. The actual was 1620, and the potential was 2000. So the gap that we need to fill is what? Is 50. If the autonomous multiplier is what? Is 5. How much must government expenditure be increased to clean up the gap of the 380? All right, so you just do what? Divide. Don't forget, when we multiply 5, the multiplier, by the change in government expenditure, it should give us the 380. So if we divide the 380 by the multiplier, it tells us by how much we should increase government spending so that we can clean the output gap. Is it clear? Is it clear? Is it clear? Good. I'm getting some thumb ups there. Okay, good. All right. Yes, I know that for a few people it will not be clear. All right. So let me go over it again. Let me just go over it again. Okay. So now let's go back. Let's go back just one bit more. We calculated our national equilibrium income. Okay. We'll come there. And who has this question? Interesting question. David, yes, we'll come to your question later on. All right. Okay. Yeah. You see, I'm still not using, I'm using one of my other colleagues' Zoom, so I'm not able to record. But don't worry, I'll do I'm trying to see if I can. I tried using the Microsoft Teams, but it was giving me problems.
Today's lecture, if you get the video to help us.
You want it recorded, eh?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir, we'll be very grateful.
Yeah, I think
Don't worry,
can record.
How do you
still have to go to your colleague? I think so.
So if you want to record, you have to ask.
So it's only when you have a subscribed Zoom that you can record.
Yes, I know. I don't have a subscribed this thing, so that's why
I have one.
It says we should ask you for permission before we can record.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me see what.
If you want to subscribe, we beg.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
It will save. So how do I give you permission to record?
Say it's being recorded.
No, I've stopped it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so the person who says he has a subscribed this thing, let's talk after the class, okay?
Yes, please.
Who am I supposed to talk to?
SMA Amenue.
All right, so how will you get in touch with me? Send
email.
Send me
numbers.
Yeah, send me a quick email and I'll give you my phone number.
That's okay.
Good. Then we'll get it recorded. All right. So let's go on and then. But I'm sure if you pick it, you'll be able to understand it very easily. It's not very difficult to understand.
Send me try.
Come again. All right, I didn't hear what you were saying. Yeah. Okay. All right. So the actual GDP was 1620, and then the potential is what 2000. The actual was 1620, and then the potential was. So clearly, the actual is lower than the potential. The actual is lower than what? The potential. So there's clearly a recessionary gap. And then we are saying that the gap is what? 380. 380 is the gap. So it means that the change in Y, okay? The change in Y is, okay, them. All right, so let me see if I can get this on the Macboard. All right, it's important you get this right, okay? All right, so the change in Y, this is the formula we are going to use. Change in Y to be equal to K, the K is multiplier by what? Change in what? G. All right, change in G, okay? We know what this change in Y is. The change in Y is what? 380. 380. Okay, and then we know what the multiplier is. What was the multiplier? I think 5. Okay. Now the question is, to what by how much should you change G? What will be the change in G for us to get this change in Y of 380? So what we have to do is to divide this place by 5, and divide this place too by what? 5. So this will cancel this. And then 380 divided by 5 is what will give us the answer that we are getting. Yes,
76.
76.
Do you guys understand now?
So it means like 76%.
It's just 76, not percent.
Okay, sir.
All right. Fatih, do you understand now?
Yes, I get you. But then the multiplier, is it a constant or something?
Oh, the multiplier, this is the formula we use. We use 1 over 1 minus B, where the B is 0.8. Okay?
Okay, I was the class was not.
Okay, all right, okay. So the B is 0.8. So now when you calculate it, you should get the 76. Okay, so it means that if we change government expenditure by 76, we'll be able to clean what? The output gap. All right? We'll be able to clean the output gap. I hope you guys understand now. You see, it's not difficult. It's not difficult at all. Yes, it will come in the exam. So when it comes in the exam, take your time and solve it properly. Okay? All right.
Yes, sir.
Right, sir.
Okay. Alternatively, if we don't want to change, if we don't want to touch G, alternatively, don't forget fiscal policy is about touching either the G or the T or both. All right? So if we don't want to touch the G, we can touch the T and it will give it the same thing. All right? So if government alternatively choose to reduce taxes, by how much should tax be reduced? All right? By how much should tax be reduced? So we need to reduce tax by just the same thing. All right. No, I won't tell you just the same thing. You calculate it for me.
Sir, please, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, please, would they always give you the autonomous spending multiplier, or is when you calculate it?
No, they won't give you the multiplier. You will have to calculate it.
Yes, sir. All right, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. So now, if the output gap is 380, by how much should taxes change? Calculate it for me and let me see. Don't forget that the autonomous tax multiplier is what? Minus B over 1 minus B. And the multiplier from the previous questions, it was equal to what? What it was equal to -4. So by how much should taxes change?
95.
95.
Exactly. So taxes must be reduced by
95.
95. Taxes must be reduced by 95. Okay.
So please, how did you get the 95? I don't really
Good.
get.
So you divide 380 by what? 380 divided by what?
-4.
By -4. All right.
So
Because the autonomous, yes.
380 divided by 4.
Exactly. -4. So because the autonomous is negative.
So are we using the other questions? This one?
No, it's the same question. We are just continuing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I hope everybody is following.
Please, what's the minus? I'm confused.
The minus is because the autonomous tax multiplier is negative.
It's always negative. So I'm saying
Exactly.
where the 4 from? Like the negative from the question we used.
The previous question. The previous question. Yeah. So this one, there, by all means, it will come in your exams. So know how to solve it. I mean, there's no way you do macroeconomics and not solve things like this in your exams. Multiplier, the autonomous tax multiplier, balance tax. Some of you miss it. So take your time and know what the autonomous tax multiplier is and what the other multipliers to are, and make sure you are able to.
And so please, if you're asked to, let's say, if you ask this question, if government alternatively choose to reduce tax, it means you have to use this formula, like the 380, the gap over the autonomous multiplier.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
But understand why we are using the gap. The gap is the change in Y, like what I did.
All right, that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So somebody says he wants to say. All right. No, don't worry, Princess. We'll come back to it later. Let's try and complete the slides, and then we'll see. All right. So now let's look at some other issues related to the tax multiplier. All right. Okay. We have just 2 slides to complete. So there is this thing called automatic stabilizers. Okay. All right. So automatic stabilizers refers to inbuilt physical mechanisms within an economy that dampens effects of fluctuations in aggregate demand or output. All right. So these things are inbuilt mechanisms that dampens the effects. They ensure that when you are in periods of recession, people don't lose. When loss of jobs leads to loss of income, consumption expenditure do not fall so much to deepen recession. So an example of an automatic stabilizer is something like unemployment benefits, unemployment insurance. The idea is that when the economy is in recession, people don't lose too much. Consumption expenditure can be sustained. All right. So in the US, it's not very popular in a country like Ghana. All right. It's not popular in a country like Ghana. It's much more popular in the advanced economies. All right. So in the US and that kind of thing. You unemployment benefits are so easy. When you are unemployed, just go and file, and some $200 will definitely be coming every month. All right. So those things are examples. All right. So these things are examples of automatic stabilizers, and they are more prominent in developed countries than in Ghana. All right. Other developing countries like Ghana. Okay. Now there's something you need to know, and that is called crowding out effect. Okay. It is called crowding out. All right. So expansionary fiscal policy is meant to stimulate aggregate demand for goods and services. But you realize that it also does what? It leads to an increase in what? Interest rates. For instance, if government is conducting expansionary fiscal policy, it needs to get money from somewhere. It needs to get money from somewhere. And as you borrow and borrow and borrow more from people, the only way the next borrower can give you the next money is when you give him a better interest rate. So government borrows when they run expansionary fiscal policy. The additional borrowing comes with what? High interest rate. Okay? If you are borrowing and you keep borrowing from it, the only reason why I will give you the next amount to borrow is when you give me a higher interest rate. So high interest rates comes with borrowing. So when you are conducting an expansionary fiscal policy, you are likely to be faced with the situation of what? High interest rate. Now, high interest rates, don't forget the interest rate is nothing but the cost of doing business. So higher interest rates increases the cost of investments and reduces the actual investments. Okay, so high interest rates may also even reduce private consumption. Okay, it may just reduce private consumption. And one channel through which the private consumption can be reduced is you opting to save more of your money so that you can earn more of, you can take advantage of the increase in interest rates. All right. So if you say income is supposed to be either consumed or saved and you are saving more, you are reducing your what? Consumption. So crowding out simply refers to an offset or a reduction in aggregate demand that results from an expansionary fiscal policy. Okay, how, by what extent? So the expansionary fiscal policy is meant to increase government spending and reduce taxes. The overall aim is to increase income. But because interest rates will increase along the line, we shouldn't expect income to increase by the full amount. All right, because of the reduction in investment. Don't forget, I2 is part of the calculation of. So when we have y equals c plus I plus g, I is there. All right. So if you are borrowing too much and interest rate is going up, investment will punish you. That punishment is what you are referring to as what? The crowding out effect. All right. So the crowding out refers to a certain reduction in aggregate demand that occurs during an expansionary fiscal policy when borrowing increases interest rates. All right. When borrowing increases interest rates. Yes, Paul, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Sir, please, I want to know why is that when the government run this expansionary fiscal policy, it leads to increase in interest rate? What is the
so that is what I've just explained. That if they want to expand the economy, they don't have the resources. So they will have to borrow it from somewhere else. Okay?
Yeah, okay, sir.
And if you are going to borrow from someone and you keep borrowing and borrowing, the next borrower, the only reason why he will borrow to you is because you are giving him a better interest rate. Otherwise, he will say you are not credit-worthy person. You don't even need it. But if the government is willing to still commit to the expansionary fiscal policy, the only thing he will agree to is a higher interest rate. All right? So this is something that you should know very well. Okay, Randolph.
So how is interest rate related to investment spending?
Oh, so interest rate is just the cost of doing business, all right? It is the cost of doing. If it's high, people don't commit a lot more, okay, into doing. They won't get the funds to be able to do the business. So investment is always negatively related to interest rates. Okay, there's a negative relationship always between investment and interest rate. All right. Any other question?
Okay.
So, can you please take the crowding out?
Oh, so the crowding out, Fatih, we are just saying that expansionary for fiscal policy is meant to increase aggregate demand. But as you do that and interest rates go up, if at the end of the day we were expecting national income to increase by, say, 1,000, it will not increase that by that 1,000. It will increase by just, say, up to just 800. And the reason is that along the line of the expansionary fiscal policy, interest rate has gone up. That's the explanation. So it will reduce, through the reduction in investment spending, to reduce aggregate and national income. So instead of the 1,000, we end up with just, say, 800. All right. So 200 has been crowded out. All right. Okay. It has been crowded out. Okay. All right, David. Interesting question. All right, but let's treat it out of this class. It's a quite all right. So is that clear? Okay. We still have some time. Unfortunately, this week we have to load late. Unfortunately, so we still have some time. Let me start with what we are supposed to be doing on Thursday. All right, that slide. I have more than 100 I have let me see. I have about Sewa, don't be sad, okay? Don't be. Yeah, I have about 100 slides on that. All right. So now what we've dealt with earlier on was fiscal policy. Okay, at least let us define what money is. And when we get to fractional reserve banking, we stop there. All right, we stop there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please, I have a question out of class.
Okay, what is the question?
Please, why aren't we given assignments on Sakai so that at least we get like 10 marks, like maybe some 20.
Oh, is it the numbers are large. You may not be able to mark all.
You can employ some of us like the course reps. Then you tell them that they should get some.
No, you are students. You're supposed to come and learn, so we can't do that.
It's in that.
He said that we can use the maybe objective. You see objectives there is Sakai that marks it. So
yeah, but we know some of you have been copying.
We haven't. We do it alone.
No, it's not true.
So look how we are participating in class.
And so we'll give class participation instead of the assignment.
Then, all right, then we have 30 marks.
Okay, so what is your name? What is your name? Let me write your name down.
I'm Margaret Tufo.
I'm Gideon.
So we'll give class All right.
What assignment?
You want an assignment? Okay, I will get you some assignment questions. Don't worry. Okay, I'm this semester. I'm really fully prepared for you now. I'll make sure. Well, no, not me. You have to contribute in making sure that. Okay, so we have. I was very worried about your grade, but I want you to do well this semester. All right, I want you to do well. Because of that grade thing, I've lost a lot of friends. Now I don't even know where Mary is anymore. Okay, I don't hear from Mary and all those things. Mary, Priscilla, I don't hear from you people anymore. All right, so this time I want you people to do well, all right? So I'll definitely give you some assignments. I don't know how you will submit it, but we'll see how. Yes, I will. So please, when it's about 5 minutes to the end, just let me know and I will stop and then I'll go through the calculation bit a little bit. All right. Oh, it did. Good. The class participation did improve. It did. Okay, it did improve. All right. So now let's come to this. Let's deal with just money, and then we should be able to end it so that next Thursday when we meet. All right. So I wanted to do some exercises with you. Some exercises with you. But now that the TA is in, she will take that component. All right. She will take over that. And then what I will do is along the line, I'll also bring in some few things for you to solve. All right. So let's deal with this first and let's go on. All right. So we are going to talk about money. The end goal of this lecture is also to talk about what? Monetary policy. So we have fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is the policy of the government. How do the government increase its spending and how do they do what? And how they manipulate their government spending and how they generate money to support that spending. All right. So it is about G and T. All right. Now we are coming to deal with monetary policy. Monetary policy is simply conducted by what? The central bank. So in the case of Ghana, it is conducted by what? By the Bank of Ghana. All right. So how do they conduct their monetary policy? Monetary policy, how do they increase the supply of money in the economy and how do they reduce the supply of money? All right. All of those things, we'll look at it. All right. But before we move on, let's try and look at the concept of money. All right. This one is very easy. All right. So I'll just brush through it. It's not very difficult. All right. So before the discovery of money, there was this thing, or there was an alternative money. All right. It was this thing called the barter system. The barter system simply involved the exchange of goods and services. All right. So if I have a bottle of Avaro, which is in front of me now, and somebody has a bottle of beer, we could decide to exchange it and then that kind of thing. It was physical goods being exchanged. Okay, it was physical goods being exchanged. Okay, that was what the barter system was all about. Then there was this problem of the barter system. The key problem that made barter inefficient was double coincidence of wants. How do I find somebody who has a bottle of beer to exchange with my bottle of what? Avaro. There were issues with it, huge issues with it. All right. Okay. Then it came like, can we look for something that can be a unit of exchange? Okay, anything that can be a unit of exchange. And for that reason, when I have that thing, I don't need to go and, if I'm holding a Avaro, I don't need to go and look for somebody having a bottle of beer and do that type of exchange. I can simply give that person that thing, okay, that will represent money, all right? So money is just anything that serves as a commonly accepted medium of exchange. Anything that is accepted, okay, as a medium of exchange, all right? Anything at all that is accepted as a medium of exchange. And in history, there have been a number of things that have been used as in replacement of money. So throughout history, a number of different commodities have been used as money. So they started with commodity money, all right, where things like cigarettes, ivory, gold, oil, beer, copper, etc. All right. So that's what is referred to as commodity money. Those things were used. All right. So that was more or less a very simple solution to the issue of the double coincidence of wants that barter was creating. All right. But you realize that it created another problem. So the main disadvantage of commodity money is that the items used as money had intrinsic value. All right. So gold had a certain value. Okay, they had a certain value. Okay, so those value, they could be in high demand for reasons other than the money. All right, they had other values that made them likely to be in higher demand than even the real reason. The real reason that they were being used for money. And they were limited in supply too. All right, and don't forget, this is if there is something that is scarce, something is associated with it. Okay, something is associated with it. So these limitations led to commodity money also having problems until more recently, these things like paper money was introduced. Paper money and coin were introduced, okay, which is not wanted for its own sake. You realize that the paper money on its own had no value. It had no value, but there's a certain legal tender on it that makes it widely and easily acceptable by all, okay, for the exchange of what? Of goods and services. So there are fiat money that is declared legal tender by what? By government. So money has three main functions. First, it is used as what? A medium of exchange. It's supposed to facilitate exchange. A unit of account. It allows us to value all things. You can value all things in terms of money and compare. All right. It will be difficult to compare one bottle of beer to one bottle of beer. But if I know that a beer costs 20 pesos and Avaro also costs 10 pesos, then I can compare the two easily. That's what the unit of account means. And a store of value, we can easily, so if if my bottle of Avaro will go bad and I'm not ready to consume the Avaro, I can just simply sell it and get the money. So the money is now serving as a store of value. We can easily convert any perishable item into money and store them for what? For future use. All right? Store them for future use. So those are the main functions of money. Okay? And there are different definitions of money. So money can be aggregated, and money aggregates can be classified into two main groups. There's the narrow money, which is referred to as M1, and it consists of paper currency and coins with the public. And then the demand deposits or checking accounts, okay? Demand deposits and what? And checking accounts, okay? Demand deposits, that's M1. Then there is M2, which is broad money. Broad money is M1 plus savings accounts, time deposit accounts, okay? And in some countries, they have the M2 plus. For instance, in the case of Ghana, M2 plus is what? M2 plus what? Foreign currency deposits. Okay, so Rodney, the cowries was an example of a commodity money. All right, there are examples of commodity money. Hey, Fifi, this is your question. All right. Okay. All right. So those are the monetary aggregates. Okay. Those are the monetary aggregates. I mean, slave trade is nothing that should be. We shouldn't even consider it as barter trade because of the issues associated with it. Okay. All right. Okay. So now let us look at, so if there is money and money is scarce and money is traded on a market, then there should be what? A demand for money, and there should be what? A supply of money, right? There should be a demand for money and there should be a supply of money. Now let us look at the demand for money. All right. So the demand for money is also called the demand for what? Real money balances. This is the demand for the most liquid form of money rather than what? Other interest-bearing assets. All right. So you can hold money for two main reasons. There are two sources of the demand for money. You can hold money for what? For transaction purposes. Okay. Some also refer to precautionary and add it. Some also refer to precautionary, but others add it to transactionary and just call them all transactionary demand for money. Before we have what? The asset demand for money. The asset demand for money is also what? The speculative demand for money that you are aware of. All right. So the demand for money simply refers to the quantity of money that individuals want to hold for transactions and for what? For other purposes. All right. For transaction and other purposes. So two main sources of the demand for money: for transactional purposes and for just speculative purposes. Okay. Asset demand for money. All right. All right. So when we say transactional demand for money, the money that you want to hold to be able to make purchases. All right. So the transactions demand for money is the amount of money held for the purchases of making transactions, for the purposes of making transactions. So suppose you earn 100 cedis per month and you use all of this money to purchase goods and services. Then we say your average money balance for the month will become what? 50. Okay. Okay, it will be 50. Your average money balance for the month, okay? Average money balance for the month will be 50. So suppose you earn 100 cedis per month and you use all of this amount for the purchases of goods and services, okay? You use all of this amount for the purchases of goods and services, all right? Okay, so transactional demand, yes, I'll just cross-check this. I'm not so sure where the 50 is coming from. All right. Okay, so I'll just cross-check that. All right. So it's just the money you hold for your transactional purposes. Okay, any money you hold for transactional purposes. And then the speculative demand. So the speculative demand is, so the transactional demand for money, I know in your textbooks, you were told that the transactional demand for money depends only on income. Anyway, there is this new set of economic theory that Pigo, Tobin, and those people, all right? For them, they felt that even the transactional demand for income, all right? Transactional demand for income can depend on interest rates, all right? And look at what happens if you keep your money in your mobile money. You do earn an interest, all right? So even though you keep the money in your mobile money for easy use for transactions, there's an interest earned on it, all right? And that's where Tobin, Pigo, and all those people, they said that even though the transactional demand for money depends on income, it can also depend on what? Interest rate. All right. So the rate of interest rate is the opportunity cost of holding. All right. Is the opportunity cost of holding. So what you forgo by holding assets in money rather than interest-bearing assets. So you may decide not to put your money in interest-bearing assets like treasury bill and all those, even if you put it in your savings, ordinary savings account. Nowadays, ordinary savings accounts are earning what? They are earning interest. All right. So that is where this new thing is coming from. So don't think it's wrong at all. It is not. Transactional demand can depend on income, but the likes of Pigo, Tobin, there are a couple of them, about 3 different people. They came and said that even transactional demand for money can depend on what? It can depend on the interest rate. All right. It can depend on the interest rate. All right. And there are some other determinants of transactional demand for money, such as prices, income, Income we know already. If your income is high, your demand for money may be high. Okay, so if prices double, holding all that things constant, you need twice as much money to buy the same quantity of goods and services. Okay, you need twice as much money to buy the same quantities of goods and services. All right. Okay. So those are the determinants for the transactional demand for money. Okay, those are the determinants for the transactional demand for money. It can depend on interest rate, it can depend on prices, it can depend on income. All right. Now let's come to this asset demand for money. So asset demand for money, yes, it all depends on interest rate. That we know already from high school, that the asset demand for money rises out of money's function as a store of value. When households allocate their wealth, income among various financial assets, their portfolio typically includes high interest assets, some very and what? So it could be a mixture. Okay, it could be a mixture. So the most important thing is that money is the safest and the most liquid assets. Okay, that's the most important thing for us to know. That money is the safest and the most liquid asset. So the assets, the demand for money refers to the need to hold money super safe. Okay, let's hold it super safe and buy very liquid financial assets. And our portfolio, the portfolio is more or less what are the different types of financial assets. All right, so you could have some that are very liquid, some that are high interest, and you could have as many as possible in your portfolio. All right, you can have as many as possible in your portfolio. Okay, all right, so let me end here. I don't want to go beyond the money thing. So we'll end here, and then what I will do is those that said they didn't understand the calculation very well. So all of you, I mean, those who want to exit can exit and go. Thank you for joining today's class. We'll meet again on Thursday. But the few who wants to still look at the calculation that we did, I can take them through it. Yes, I can get the how do you call it? I can get a few questions for you to solve. All right, I'll try and do that. All right, Caroline. All right, so I'll get some few questions for you to solve. All right, so those of you who are fine with the calculation, you can go. We are done for today. Okay, we are done for today. Okay, we are done for today. But those who want me to go through the calculation once more, you can stay on just for the next few minutes. Okay. All right, so let's go back to this calculation thing. I hope you can see the slides.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Daddy.
Yes, sir. Sir, please, can you go over the crowding out effects? I was logged out during class.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's start with this one. All right. So, I mean, this is even easy. I don't know. Okay, so this is the main question. You were given C to be equal to 100 plus 0.8 YD. All right. And then investment was given as 200, government spending as 80, and then tax was 70. Okay. All right. Is this where you want me to go over again?
We should start with the computation before coming to the question.
And yes, no, this is the computation. There's no question behind anymore. The other ones are. So let's start with this specific example. This specific one. Okay. Is it fine? Let's start with this specific one. All right. So we already know that 0.8 is what? The marginal propensity to consume. Right? There's no doubt about that, right? Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Good. And we know what the 0.8 means. It means that 80% of any additional income goes to what? Consumption. We know that already. So if it is not 0.8 and it is 0.5, it will mean that 50% of additional income is going for what? For consumption. Is that also clear?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Now, this is how you get the and be careful. You see, you have to be careful because the multiplier, if we open the economy, it will change slightly. When we get there, I'll show you. But this specific multiplier that we have is for a closed economy. Okay, it's for a closed economy. Closed economy. So we have the autonomous spending multiplier. So this autonomous spending multiplier it is for a change in either autonomous consumption, investment, or G. Because we are dealing with fiscal policy, that's the reason why we are dealing only with G. Okay. Foster, is it Foster? Where do you want me to go, Foster? Unmute and speak to me.
I think with the main formula, I'm sure.
So you want to go all the way back there, here? Here. Is it here?
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's the same thing basically that we are calculating. Okay, we'll get there. It's the same thing basically. Oh, okay, Foster, so which one are you referring to? Unmute and speak to me. She says no.
Let's go back.
I said it was a mistake. It was a mistake.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's go ahead now. Let's go back to where the questions. That is what you will get in the exams. These simple things won't show you this one in the exam. This is what will come in the exams. All right. So now what we need to know is how to calculate the. What we need to know is how to calculate the autonomous spending multiplier. All right. From the closed economy, the autonomous spending multiplier is 1 over 1 minus B. Okay. And from the question, B was what? 0.8. So I can substitute 0.8 into this and get the autonomous spending multiplier to be equal to what? 5. All right. The autonomous spending multiplier, I'll get that to be equal to what? 5. Right. Now, the autonomous tax multiplier, all right? Yes, it's constant. For now, it is constant. Let's take it as that. It is constant. It is, so that 5, this 5 is the value by which national income will change, if any of the autonomous elements. And the autonomous elements we are referring to here is autonomous consumption, investment, and G. Okay, and G. Now, to get the autonomous tax multiplier, don't forget the autonomous tax multiplier is what? Minus B over 1 minus B, simply because of this equation we see here. All right, this equation. What will be the slope coefficient of T naught? The slope coefficient of, so the autonomous tax multiplier is different from the autonomous spending multiplier. Okay? Yes, Zoom user, you can unmute and ask your question. The autonomous tax multiplier is different from the autonomous spending multiplier. Ask your question.
Okay, so my question is, anytime we are asked to find the autonomous spending multiplier, we should use this 1 over 1 minus B.
Exactly, but it will get to a point where it will change slightly. When we get there, I'll show you.
Okay.
Okay. Good. All right. Okay. So now let's move on now. So we know how to get the multipliers. We will play around this multiplier. We will play around with it a lot. Okay. So now let's move on to how to calculate the national income. All right. So the national income. Okay. So the equilibrium, Monica. The equilibrium is you adding C plus I. This I, the I is 200 and the G, but the C, there's YD there. YD is equal to what? Y minus T. YD is disposable income. And by definition, disposable income is income after tax. Income after tax. So YD is what? Y minus T. And we know what T is. T was what? 70. So we can replace YD with what? Y minus 70. And then the rest is just mathematics. Here, I get 0.8 multiplied by Y, 0.8 multiplied by 70 plus 200 plus 80. They are all constants. I can add them up. So the equilibrium should be equal to what? 1620. All right, Monica. That's how we got the equilibrium to be equal to what? 1620. Okay. All right. Now let's move on a little bit. Let's come to this thing about output gap. We said that if the potential is greater than the actual, then there's a recessionary gap. But when the potential is less than the actual, then there's what? An inflationary gap. Yes, Princess, ask your question.
Yeah, please, sorry to draw you back.
Okay.
I don't get how you put the 0.8 as the B.
It's from the question. It's here.
So how did you manage to make that? Yes, I get it. So how will I know that is B?
Oh, so by all means, in the question, any value, any cost constant you see closer to the disposable income is marginal propensity to consume.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. Yes. So first, we are moving there to that change in G thing. All right. So we know that we know what the output gap is. So let me just keep it so that I keep it short for you. We know what the output gap is. So we calculated the actual GDP or actual output, and we got 1620. Is that correct? That's what we got, 1620. Now the thing is, assuming the potential output is what, 2000, clearly the actual is lower than what? The potential by the magnitude of what? 380. Now the question says, if you are, the magnitude is what? 380. That is 2000 minus 1620. So it's equal to 380. The question says that if you are a government and you want to increase your actual so that it becomes equal to what? The potential, by how much should you change government spending? And by how much should you also change tax? Okay, and that was what I was trying to explain for you, that let me see if I can bring back the whiteboard. Okay, that was what I was trying to explain for you here. To get the change in income, so change in Y is equal to change in income, you have to multiply the multiplier by the change in G. From the question, we already know what the change in income is. We want income to change by what? 380. We know what the multiplier is. The multiplier is what? Is 5. Now the question says, by how much should you change G? That's what the question is saying. By how much should you change G so that, by how much should you change G so that the change in income will be equal to what? 380. So what we said was that divide both sides by what? 5. If you divide both sides by 5, it will tell by how much G should change. Okay? Just a second, 1 minute.
So please, what's our G?
Okay. Yes. Who was asking the question? Who was asking the question? Is it clear? Fatih, I can't hear you. Your line is
forward.
Fatih.
Please, is it better now?
Yes. Ask your question.
Yes. Say please, is it better now?
Yes, I can hear you, Fatih.
I said, what G is?
Oh, your line is a little shaky.
The G.
Oh, Fatih, I can't hear you. All right. So I don't know what, I think the question you want to ask is, please, what does the G? G is government expenditure. All right. G is government expenditure. Okay. G is just government expenditure. Okay. So let's go back to the question so that we can wrap up. And then yes. So G is just exchange is government expenditure. All right. So it tells you that if you use the formula I wrote there, it tells you that if you change G by 76, then Y will also change by what? 380. And my next question was, assuming it was not gene that we want to touch, but I want to touch tax. By how much should tax change? Okay, by how much should tax change for us to get income to also change by 380? So it's the same formulation. All right, it's the same formulation. Okay, so here we have change in Y to be equal to the K, which is the multiplier, multiplied by what? The change in T. Okay, change in T. Okay, all right, change in T. So if we know that this is 380, okay, and the K was 4 minus 4, okay, then minus 4, all right, and then we have change in T here, okay. So it means just divide this by what? Minus 4, and to tell you by how much taxes should reduce. The negative there is just, you see, economics, we don't deal with minus numbers. There's nothing like minus 500 cedis. All right. So the minus here is saying that reduce taxes by what? A certain value. After you've done that, income will increase by what? 380. That is what we are saying. Okay. That is what we are saying. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, yes,
Right.
sir.
It will come, this one, to come in the exams, whether you like it or not.
Yes, please, sir.
It will come.
At least what we need is that you send questions to chat room or the
Yes,
phone.
I will get some questions.
Sir, please get us practical examples.
Yes, same question. This one and the one that is not mixed plenty.
Yes, sir, give us
Don't
easy one.
So we beg you people, when you are setting a question,
Sir, please give us assignment so we can boost our marks.
Give us easy one.
don't do it.
Don't cry, don't cry. Don't give up.
Deduce the equation from the answer.
Don't give up,
Please give
guys.
us assignment so we can boost our marks.
Please, we need the slides.
Yes.
Sir, we need
I'm
it.
told
No,
the
the
slides-
slides are available.
No, the one at Faka is only lecture 1 and lecture 2.
So it's available.
Yes, it's only lecture 1 and lecture 2.
I'll send it to Georgina so that he shares it for you on your WhatsApp platform. Don't worry.
The most important.
Thank you very much,
Add
sir.
this one to it. This
Please, but
slide.
the most important one is that the exam, they shouldn't set the questions.
Yes, sir, please. You have to be lenient with us. We are in difficult times.
Boosting our marks.
All right, so let's end here. Let's end here.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
So let's end here. Let's end here and meet
Sir, bye-bye.
All right, bye.
I really like the way you speak. Sir, please, God bless you for giving us some questions, sir.
The legends are
Yes, sir. God bless you.
God bless you, okay?
Sir, God bless you. Bye.
For future easy
All right, so
questions.
let's meet on Thursday. And then the lady who is supposed to get in touch with me, please send me an email. I'll reply immediately. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
All right.
Please be careful. Take good care of yourself.
Right here.
Love you. I'm taking my second.
Drink your concussions.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye to everybody.
Oh, bye.
It's okay. It's okay.
Bye.